Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to the Midnight Ride. My wife is making me watch Doctor Who. Uh, it's not bad. Right out of the gate, I'll say that, and it's fair because I've been making her watch Smallville for the last 3 years. We're on season 6 of that show, so the bill comes due. But in all seriousness, we're 4 episodes in, and I've been peripherally familiar with it for years. She got into it about a decade ago, and this was right around the time that it was probably at its peak popularity. Like, somebody introduced her to it, and she really liked it. She started buying the seasons, and once a week she would have my sister-in-law over back when we were all living in the same city, and they'd watch an episode or two while I was drawing or playing with my son or whatever. And so I'm familiar with the general bent of it, but I've never followed the story all the way through. And a couple of times over the years, she sat me down to watch some individual episodes, and I've fallen asleep. Others I've made it all the way through, and there's been a couple that have been really compelling and playing with history ideas, saying, yeah, okay, what if the royal family had what the heck is even the word hemo something? Like, they had a blood illness that's hereditary, but it had never come into the line before, and they used that as a metaphor for lycanthropy. But that was when David Tennant was playing the Doctor. So, who knows? So we're a couple of episodes into the first season of the reboot. So this is going back almost 20 years now. And there was just that one season that had Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. He's a guy that, man, I feel like I've seen him play similar types of characters in just about everything that he's in, but he still does it well. And this is the first time that I've seen him playing anything that's like comedic or goofy. And the Doctor can be serious from time to time. Oh, geez, there's a train parked on the tracks. The joys of rural living. I gotta be to work in 10 minutes. We are flipping this busy around. Anyway, I like Christopher Eccleston's performance in this one. It's cool that he's able to kind of let loose with some comedic moments, but he's also able to be serious when the stakes are high. I kind of like the fact that I can't directly compare this show to anything else. It's a little bit Star Trek sometimes. It's a little bit Farscape, a little bit of everything, which opens up a lot of the possibilities for storytelling. The flip side of that hazard is that you can very easily break your own rules and just start doing whatever the heck you want without any regard to continuity, which, as I understand it, happens later with the Jodie Whittaker storylines when they introduce the female Doctor. But so far, this is it's pretty consistent across a couple of episodes. I haven't watched any of the classic Who from like the 60s and 70s. They're all on YouTube. But for now, whenever the wife wants to sit me down and say, hey, like, let's watch a Doctor Who, I'm like, all right, cool. And we'll get into it. The first episode of the reboot, it starts by focusing in on a girl named Rose. That's Billie Piper's character. She's 19. She's just out of school. She's working a retail job at a clothing shop. They say shops instead of stores. And while she's closing up one night, a bunch of mannequins come to life and start attacking her. And then the Doctor pops up out of nowhere and plants a bomb on the building and blows up all the mannequins, but it's not all done yet. And throughout the course of the episode, she's trying to figure out, who is this guy? What's going on with the mannequins? She gets on the internet. There are people who claim to have had contact with the Doctor over the years, and who is the Doctor? What is the Doctor? They just call him the Doctor. I am the Doctor. Doctor Who? Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Like, I'm still waiting for an explanation on why they call him that. I understand that he's got a backstory. I haven't gotten into it yet. I'm just kind of riding along and experiencing this as a guy who's jumping in with both feet into something that he knows almost nothing about. Like, I've got basic familiarity, but that's it. At the end of the pilot episode, Doctor Who invites Rose to go with him on adventures in his police box time machine. And she says, yeah. She basically leaves her boyfriend hanging to run off with this older man of her own ethnicity. Many such cases. And that's it. They're going to go have adventures through space and time. A great deal of my familiarity with Doctor Who, in addition to my wife's fandom of it, comes from the spoofs that Community did of it. It's funny that they couldn't actually talk about Doctor Who because of trademarks or copyrights or something. And so they created something called Inspector Spacetime, and there was an in-show show called Inspector Spacetime that Abed became a huge fan of. And then later, the guy who played Inspector Spacetime wanted to start his own web series spinoff, and for the same reason, he couldn't call it Inspector Spacetime. So he had to call it the Inspector Who Traveled Through Time, but also space. So we're getting into multiple derivations of the same joke here. But overall, like it's an enjoyable watch. I'm sure I'm going to get to some dud episodes here and there. You can see that it was a show on a budget to begin with, and this is going to be kind of my closing statement here as a recap of this first episode. There's a life cycle to popular IPs. All the time there are people creating new stories, new comics, new shows, new movies, and very few of them latch on and catch on widely with a reader base or a viewer base. But when they do, suddenly there's popularity. Attention is currency, and with that attention will come investment. There will be time investment and emotional investment from the viewers, and then you'll eventually get larger entities that want to come in and make a financial investment, but also have a stake in what the thing is allowed to say and do and be from then on. And I think Doctor Who is a great case of this. I remember when it was on, like when these seasons were on originally, and everybody was a huge fan of it. I didn't need another TV show to go hunting down, so I never did. But culturally, it was everywhere amongst the nerds and the geeks and stuff. And it got more of a budget as it went. The effects got better, the props got better. And once it became a real cultural force, that's when bigger entities bought into it and said, okay, now it needs to be about feminism and transgenderism and all this other stuff. And that was when the fan base kind of left it and said, this isn't fun anymore. This isn't what it was. It's a corporate puppet to spout off political points. It's like, oh, you don't care about human rights. It's like, I care about Doctor Who. And that's kind of been the same thing with Star Trek and Star Wars and Marvel and all these other big IPs that got bought up and corporatized and then made to say something other than what they were about for a while. And sounds like they're correcting course. I'm not going to go see the new Captain America movie, but I'm not going to make 500 videos about why I think it's a bad idea or whatever. I've kind of lost interest. But from the reviewers that I've seen that I still think have a modicum of integrity to them, they're saying that it's kind of a sequel to the 2008 Hulk movie, which I thought had come out in 2009. But no, it was a 2008, the Hulk movie with Edward Norton. It's picking up storylines from that, and it's kind of on par with that quality-wise, which means that it'll probably be an enjoyable watch. It'll probably have some flaws. It might be on par quality-wise, we'll say, with like Iron Man 2, maybe Iron Man 3, which isn't a terrible movie. It's not as great as some of the better ones, but if it's not as bad as some of the Disney Plus shows that want to sit down and lecture you about racism and whatever, then hey, maybe they're figuring that out and they're trying to get back to just like, hey, let's make good entertainment, kind of like what I'm watching here with Doctor Who with the wife. So a little bit less of a recap of episode 1, but hey, that's why I have the second channel here. It was fine to watch. We just finished watching a couple of other episodes in the last week or two, and tonight we watched, well, it was the first part of a two-parter. I didn't realize it was a two-parter when we sat down, so we'll watch the second half later. Big farting aliens and a pig and stuff. I will say that so far, like what they're coming up with has been not necessarily mind-blowing, but I can't sit down and like predict the next move with every scene, and that's good. It means that there's more effort and less reliance on tropes. They really were trying to make their own thing and do it on a budget. And that's one of the cool things about passion projects. Anyway, almost to work now, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Drive safe. See you out there.